Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite money man in a hoodie here. Today, I want to talk about discouragement because I see a lot of people who are discouraged. I just saw a TikTok; it's from a year ago, but I still feel like it's relevant to discuss. You've heard in politics people talking about raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which is more than I made at my first job. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Uh, we also hear people that are now talking about saying that if you're making $25 an hour, you're not making enough to survive. And they pull up their spreadsheets and whatnot, and they're showing you everything that you're going to be paying for and how much it's going to cost. And they're running through the numbers. Um, the numbers are a little inaccurate. I think what was it he said? The average car payment was for the average household was about $400. It's actually not. It's closer to 500 if you buy a used car and 700 if you're buying a new car. But um, the whole thing that he's talking about here is uh, how if you're making $25 an hour, which is about $50,000 a year, you're not making enough to live. I'm here to tell you that's 100% horse crap. But first, I want to explain why people are so discouraged. I'm not going to use his numbers because his numbers, you can do the research on them, they're not true. So we're going to do some quick research that you can Google as well. The first one that we're going to cover, like I just did, is the average car payment. The average car payment in the United States of America, if you buy a new car, is $730 a month. So we're just going to round that down to 700. So imagine $700 leaving your bank account every month, okay? We're going to write that down here, okay? Got myself my notepad. I got myself a pen. I encourage you to do the same, okay? And here's what I want you to do, okay? If you have any of these, I want you to write down what these numbers are too, because I want you to get personally excited about it. At first, you're going to be terrified, but then I want to give you some hope. All right, so the first one is $700 a month, okay? And if you have a 500, write down the 500, but a lot of people have tendency to want to buy new things, so I'm writing down the 700. All right, so the next one, credit cards. The average American in the US has about $6,000 on their credit card, and they pay on average about $400 a month towards that debt, which they're not getting rid of. They're just replacing it with another $400, but we'll talk about that in a minute as well. So $400 a month also disappearing from the account. So we've already got $1,100 disappearing. Not fun. Let's talk about student loans. Okay? Student loans, the average payment is about $500 a month. All right, so already things are not looking super pretty. That's $1,600 disappearing out of the bank account every month. And then let's throw the last one in, which would be rent and mortgage. Okay, so the rent would be about $1,400 for the average in the Chattanooga area. The number may be need to tweak a little bit one way or the other, but it's right at about $1,400 a month. And if you have a mortgage, it's $1,700 a month. Okay, so we've got all those numbers laid up there. Let's do some quick math. We've got 700 plus 400 is 1,100. 1,100 plus 500 is 1,600, and then 1,400 plus the 1,600 is $3,000 every month disappearing to debts and to living, to your shelter. Okay, debts and your shelter, $3,000. If you make $25 an hour, that's about $4,000 every month. It's a little bit bigger than that, but not by much. All right, and that still doesn't include your food. And as I'm saying these, I want you to pause the video and write down. I want you to look back at your bank account or your receipts, your checkbook or whatever, and I want you to write down how much you're spending on these things, okay? So you've got food to pay, you've got electric bills, you've got water. If you have pets, you got to pay for your pets, however much money you have to spend on your pets every month. All right, you've got car insurance. And then all of the rest goes to fund money. All right, now that doesn't really include everything, but that's a rough estimate to show you that already we have $3,000 of the $4,000 disappearing, leaving $1,000 left over for everything else. Average electric bill is probably about $100-ish a month. It's pretty normal bill that we see is about 85 to 90 in our house. All right, so we're just going to roughly say $100. It's going to leave $900. Water, and if you include water and sewer, usually can be about $50 together. All right, so that leaves us $850. Pets, average person spends somewhere between $40 to $200 on pets every month. Car insurance can be anywhere between $75 to $150, and sometimes even more than that every month. You see how this starts to pile up, and you see how people get in this sense of defeat? It makes sense when you put all of the numbers down. There ain't much to play with here, and we haven't even got through everything. That's not a fun way to live. It's not a fun way to live, and it makes sense why people get so discouraged. But let's do something fun, okay? All right, so think about how much you spend on food right now. If you're a single person or a newly married couple, you can cut that food bill down a little bit, okay? So the video that I saw of a person saying you can't make it on $25 an hour, he had $600 down as the budget for food every month. My wife and I budget $75 a week's worth, okay? So already we're looking at less money than that. We're looking at about $300. So just chop that whole bill in half. You can do that, and you can even do less. You buy ramen noodles, beans and rice, rice and beans. You've heard that before if you know anything about The Ramsay Show. If you purposely live as cheap as you possibly can, let's just say for, I don't know, let's say you live that way for 6 months, okay? You live that way for 6 months, cutting that bill in half. That's $300 extra that you have. We're not going to use that to save. We're not going to do any types of saving stuff. We're going to knock out that credit card, okay? You knock out that credit card. All of a sudden, you don't have $1,000 a month to do all of the other things with. You now have $1,400. It's pretty nice, isn't it? But we're not done yet. We're going to take the next smallest one, and we're going to knock that out. If you have a car and your car is too high, I believe it is if your car payment is, I think it was a half or more of your regular monthly income, and it's probably a little bit less. It may be closer to a third, but definitely if it's one half, if half of your monthly income is going to the car, or if you're going to be stuck in this car for a ridiculously long time and if this car is still worth something, sell the car, buy a cheap junk car. If you can, buy it from somebody that you trust so that you know that you're not buying a junk car, and then pay that sucker off. And then guess what? You have an extra $700 a month. You see how this starts to work? You start to free up all of this money. You purposely go after these debts. Things become a lot more hopeful. This is why I did the cup example with poking holes in the cups. You're able to do a lot more when you don't have holes in your cups. And as you notice, you start to get more hopeful. To remind you guys of my story, I made a living off of $24,000 a year. I found the cheapest apartment in the area that I could afford. The absolute cheapest apartment that I found in the area where I was when I got out of school, $500 a month. Okay? It was cheap, okay? It was basically a studio. All right? Not a fancy one either. Like this was an old motel, you know, the old like little motel, an old motel with, I think it was 30 rooms in total. Turned into an apartment complex. Cheap as cheap can get. $500 a month. I didn't have car loans because I bought a cheap 2200 car and took care of it. I didn't have school loans because I worked my butt off to get scholarships, and then I worked my butt off at a job part-time that became full-time in order to pay in cash for said education. So I didn't have that. I didn't have that $500. I didn't have credit card payments. So I didn't have that $400. I didn't have a car loan. So I didn't have that $700. I had money to play with. And guess what? I was able to save $300 a month while making $24,000 a year. You can freaking do it. But you've got to step up and decide to change your habits. And once you do that, you're going to start to see successes. Knockout. Let me tell you this right now, okay? If this is inspiring to you or terrifying to you, let's do this. Sit down with all of your debts, put them out on the table, look at all of your expenses. See, make sure you know where every penny went last month, and do everything you can to make all of those cheaper, okay? Make every single one of those cheaper that you are able to make cheaper. And then go after that smallest one. Make minimum payments on everything else. Let's say that smallest one is a credit card, okay? First thing you're going to do is you're going to put that credit card down and you're not going to use it again, okay? Follow the Dave Ramsey baby steps. $1,000 in emergency money. Make minimum payments on everything until you have $1,000 in emergency money sitting there. And then anything over $1,000, throw it at the credit card. And then you don't have credit card payments anymore. And then not only do you have extra money, but you have hope. You have just experienced something that you've not experienced yet. You've experienced a victory. You're not falling behind anymore. You're getting ahead. You just made progress. If you're drowning in debt, guess what? You just made progress paying off one of those debts. It is possible, but you got to change your life. You got to change your habits. You got to decide to do things differently, and it can be done. I'm the example of how it can be done. Saving that $300 a month, I was able to pay for the honeymoon and another used car, a $5,000 used car in cash, and a few years later, we bought another $4,500 car in cash. You can do it. You just got to decide that it's worth it. That's all I got for you for now, guys. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'll see you later.